Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. Now, the content that I'm going to show you this morning is going to make you smile because Chip Roy goes off and drops bombs and nukes on Republicans for inaction, for placating, and for completely providing lip service for everything that we care about. This is something you're going to want to see because he even throws the ATF in here. This is fantastic, and send this one out. Everything will be linked in the description box below if you want to watch the entire 10-minute clip, but these are a few of the great excerpts that I have for you and we are going to discuss. And if you are new or you're a returning viewer, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and turn that notification bell on. We need as many people as we can to get into the fold with us to pass the blessing of the Second Amendment along to the next generation, and thank you so much in advance for your consideration. So now, as we go into this, keep this in mind, guys. Chip Roy was instrumental in getting the Weaponization of Government Against Americans Committee founded, essentially through the McCarthy stalemate that occurred at the beginning of the year. That whole thing where they weren't going to give McCarthy the votes and it got a little spicy wouldn't have happened without Chip Roy. Now, Chip Roy seems to have his head on a pretty good point here, and tell me in the comments field below how many of you agree with the three clips that I'm about to show you, particularly the third one where the second one, where he drops the ATF off of a cliff. Check this out. Enough of the setup. Let's get it.
What I am seeing right now from my Republican colleagues does not give me faith that they will stand up in the breach as did those men who stood on the wall at the Alamo. I am tired of words. Things are going to change in this body. If my Republican colleagues believe that they're going to be moving through relatively meaningless provisions, doing precious damned little for the very people who sent us here to change things, and they think that some of us are just going to go along for the ride, they are sorely mistaken. We will not.
All right. So the reason this is important, obviously that's exhibiting a lot of frustration. I'm sure a lot of you watching now have. However, in that negotiation with McCarthy for his speakership, you remember the thing that we covered so deeply, and we were talking about the one vote, the vote of no confidence, which could remove McCarthy from the speakership role? This is why. When you're starting to do the exact same RINO tactics that have occurred for decades now, you now have the power, Lauren Boebert, a Chip Roy, a Matt Gaetz, anybody who wants to, or Anna Paulina, I can't remember her last name, but anyone who wants to on the Republican side could just say, vote of no confidence, McCarthy, you got to have a new speaker vote. This is the power of standing up and having a pair of cojones like Chip Roy is doing. Now, I don't even have enough space for all of these clips. Check out Second Legacy with me and Tim from Military Arms Channel. It's going to be linked right down there. We're going to go into even more depth on this because there's so much greatness. But let's jump right to the next one. But keep in mind, the weaponization of government against Americans and the vote of no confidence all came from this man and people like him feeling the exact same frustrations. Let's get the second clip.
They would exempt emergency executive orders, exempt national security related executive orders, the very kinds of emergency executive orders that have been killing this country for as long as I can remember, and specifically for the last several years through the COVID pandemic and emergency responses. Executive orders forcing needles into the people's arms. And if they say no and they can't carry out their livelihoods, shrinking the labor supply, driving up the cost of goods and services by shutting down the greatest economy in the history of the world. My colleagues on this side of the aisle today ran away from actually holding the executive branch responsible.
I'm pretty sure that Chip Roy is my spirit animal. How many of you feel that exact same way? The Republicans ran away from holding the executive branch responsible. The executive branch has violated the separation of powers. They have utilized and weaponized bureaucracies and federal government against American citizens. For whatever reason you could imagine, we've got multiple examples over the last 2 years. Chip Roy is, in my opinion, speaking to something that would represent every one of our thoughts. We all have these frustrations. And this is incredibly important because as he goes into this, he's saying things that are extremely important, particularly around the RINOs not doing anything. I'm going to show you my third clip here. This is the one with the ATF in it, and wait until you hear this.
What is this side of the aisle doing about it?
Sorry, did it wrong.
And what is this side of the aisle doing about it? Not a damned thing. What is this side of the aisle doing about open borders? Nothing. Nothing. What is this side of the aisle doing about an ATF rule about to make felons out of 10 million Americans or more? Nothing. What is this side of the aisle going to do about spending? Lip service. We have a debt ceiling approaching. We're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. We should say something right now.
How many of you feel that exact same way? Let me know in the comments field below. The entire clip is also down there if you want to watch the 10-minute speech in its entirety. Also, Second Legacy, me and Tim are going to break down even more clips because there's even more greatness in here. The more that we stand up, the more that we stand in the breach, to use his own words, this is how we change things. This is how we curtail the ATF. This is how we get the separation of powers back in order. This is how we support the Supreme Court and getting things to the Supreme Court to reinforce the separation of powers, of which we've seen a bunch and we've even talked about on Second Legacy. These things are going to happen if we stand up and we make our voices heard and we have the courage of those that came before us. That's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.